Hello and welcome, members of the Wandaverse, to episode 21 of Into the Wandaverse, your one and only Scarlet Witch podcast with me, Hannabeth Gardener.
And me, producer Nick.
So let's get into it.
What's going on in the news sphere at the moment?
Well, I just wanted to quickly say thank you again. Last week we had the amazing Scott Butler on. I just want to say thank you again for that interview. Thank you guys for the positive feedback. We really appreciate it. And if you do have any questions for him and you'd like to see him on again, let us know. We want to know what you guys want to hear. We'd love to hear your feedback. It has, however, being in the Scarlet Witch fandom right now is like, we're so back. We're so over. We're so back. Obviously, last week we talked about the TVA mix-up. And this week we got Scarlet Witch issue 10 dropped. So that is the last issue in this run of Scarlet Witch comics. It wrapped up some questions. We're not going to go into the plot right now. I'll probably do a retrospective on the entire run later on, but do pick that up. Obviously, she will return in the Scarlet Witch and Vision miniseries, and then we'll see what happens after that. We got the news that Wanda will be included in the new Endgame Lego set. She is the only woman to be included, carrying the Marvel Universe on her back.
The Endgame,
yeah,
Endgame the movie,
the new Lego set with the portals. She's the only woman.
So
included in the
scene
set
that they had in Endgame with all the female superheroes.
Don't worry about that. This is what this is them coming through the portals. So you've got Doctor Strange, Wanda, Thanos, Black Panther, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Falcon, Ant-Man, but no other women. Just Wanda.
Again, like that scene in Endgame
yeah.
with all the women.
Don't worry
kind
about
of
it.
Did the whole like female empowering.
She does have new power effects, so I'll try and collect this figure by itself. Obviously, I'm not buying the whole battle set, but that is the first pictures of the.
Obviously, don't want the whole battle set.
Well, I can't afford. I can't afford to pick up a Lego Habit. Is the truth of the matter. With everything else I've got going on, like I can't afford to pick up a Lego Habit. We also had one of the Russo brothers saying, I can't remember which one, it doesn't really matter, that somebody asked...
Joe and/or Anthony.
Yeah. They asked him, will Wanda be back? And he said, we shall see, which, like, come on now. We've had Kevin Feige saying he wants her back, Elizabeth Olsen saying, we'll have to find the smartest writers to bring her back, and now the Russos. I just don't... And this leads into, obviously, the big hot topic of the week, Marvel are leaked. I just want to touch on it. It's not to do with Wanda, but did you see that the Sentry got leaked through a Funko Pop?
Yes.
After somebody was like, don't worry about them hiding him in the trailers because the design's going to get leaked by Funko. Like,
yeah. Someone else is getting fired from Funko.
I know, because they leaked the whole. This wasn't like just Smith. Smith stopped being public.
Oh yeah, no. So someone from Smith's got fired, and now someone from Funko is going to get fired.
Yeah.
Eventually, the buck's gonna stop at Marvel.
It's the guy from Smiths went to work for Funko, and then he just stayed leaking.
Yeah.
But what else leaked this week, Nick?
Honestly, I couldn't actually believe it. Like when this kind of dropped, and I was not gonna say what it is, but we'll kind of know what it is. Like when this dropped, my Reddit kind of just went a bit insane. I was like, oh, it's just one of those, like, you know, every now and then there'll just be a random sketch or something, and everyone's going to mistake it for concept art. And I was thinking, oh, okay, or you know, whatever. And then, like, I just kept seeing more images, but not the same image. I kept seeing different images.
I know, and it's like a full storyboard ass like moment that we've got. So it is concept art from several upcoming projects leaked online, including people were like, Marvel leaked this themselves, and I would be behind that if the Fantastic Four concept art hadn't leaked, because it makes sense that they would maybe leak some like Doomsday stuff for hype.
So this is Mushk Rizvi, who's a concept artist and illustrator, presumably for Disney and Marvel, or was a concept artist and illustrator for Disney plus Marvel. And then anyway, he had this page that says unpublished work, and then its headline says Fantastic Four concept and development work brackets 2022 to early 2024 end brackets. And this page apparently went up and was gone within an hour.
Yeah, but there was so much, but more stuff like there was an initial leak that I saw of the page. I was on the page, and then I also saw other leaks that happened, like the Bucky Barnes concept art that.
Which I don't have.
Don't know where people got that from, but it's from the same. It was from other pages. They were clicking around on the site, and like there's Bucky Barnes in Doom's Dungeon.
Right, didn't see that.
But yeah, I don't know. Bucky's in there. So
Okay.
Yelena. Well, what happened is there was. We're not going to really touch on the Fantastic Four concept art because that movie is coming out so soon, and it's not super relevant to this podcast. So we're gonna keep it on the Doomsday and the Vision Quest stuff because
Sure.
I mean, if you have major thoughts on the Fantastic Four concept
they're
art,
just it looks good.
it looks really good. I'm so
good.
looking forward to it.
It legitimately looks good. I'm liking the vibe they're giving, and I'm liking the visual aesthetic that we're seeing of Sue's powers, which historically have been a bit
hit and miss
rather than hit.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've had 4 Fantastic Four movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think any of them have done Sue any good, any justice.
I mean, I love Jessica Alba's Sue. Don't get me wrong. Like I grew up on that Sue, and for me, she's very important.
I gotta say, I do love Kate Mara's wig.
The wig is what you're gonna.
The wig change.
You're gonna
the wig change.
the wig.
Yeah, the mid-scene wig change.
That's like,
in Fantastic Four.
Oh god, I hate that the hatred I have for that movie because I really did love the original Fantastic Four movies.
The Tim Story
Yeah.
ones.
Sue Storm and the Silver Surfer are like some of my first forays into like the fan fiction realm.
And that's
Or
the
Sue.
last we're going to mention that on this podcast. So I legitimately like the Fantastic Four
yeah.
Josh Trank film.
Mhm.
Like the first half an hour of it, when it's clearly a Josh Trank movie before Fox kind of get hold of it, and then it turns into something else completely different. And Josh Trank has come out and said, that like Fox basically screwed him over. He had this amazing vision. There's this cut of this movie. It's like David Ayer's Suicide Squad. There's this cut of this movie that you're never going to see.
Do you want me to say something really controversial?
Go for it.
I like the Suicide Squad movie.
The David Ayer one.
Yeah, and I didn't like the Tim Gunn one. Or not Tim
James Gunn.
Tim
The James Gunn one I have on Blu-ray.
I don't like it. I never
Okay, no,
liked it.
that's
so like men.
That's fine.
So men. Anyway, the concept art.
So the point I was trying to make really is that I'm liking the visualization of Fantastic Four. It actually looks like we are getting Marvel's first family, which kind of neatly points us on to the probably Marvel's best villain.
Yes.
Should we? Is that a hot take? I don't even know if this is a hot take.
I absolutely love the problem I have is I love this Doom concept art. I love that they decided, we all thought they were going to do like a Void version of Battleworld. This is clearly Battleworld, but this medieval like look is stunning. I'm obsessed with the concept art. What pisses me off is I know Robert Downey Jr. is under there. It looks like they're doing Doom because Doom has had some tragic comic movie like moments in terms of like, I just love
Toby Kebbell in the Trank one, and it was
is it Julian? What's his face?
Blanking. Well, you carry
We
on talking,
had a
I'm gonna
whole
look it up.
like a smash or pass on the Dooms where I was just smashing all the Doom.
No, it wasn't.
It was Doom.
Was it Doom?
It's always been Doom for me, baby.
Smash or pass.
Yeah, but I love the character design. It looks incredible. And it looks like we've got Yelena holding maybe Reed on his knees in this throne room scene with Advisor Strange.
Julian McMahon.
Yes, Cole from
Smash.
Smash. Cole from Charmed. Yeah.
Yelena holding. Sorry, carry on.
You've got Yelena holding Reed, I think. I would guess this is Reed on the floor. Yelena's there. You've got Strange as the advisor. Now, people are saying this is Sue next to him. And maybe Vanessa Kirby just hadn't been cast yet, but that doesn't look like Vanessa Kirby in this concept art. Because people are saying this is Franklin, this child. And that this is Sue. Because the hair is definitely ginger rather than blonde. And my first thought was, is that Wanda? I don't think it is, looking at this concept art, but it's clearly somebody has been brought before Doom. And like you can see this is Yelena, like she's got Florence Pugh's butt just there. And you've got Bucky Barnes in the dungeon. And then obviously we've got the Young Avengers with Star-Lord and Wong, but America Chavez is missing.
Because Young Avengers, this is Cassie Lang, this is Wiccan, this is Hawkeye, Kate Bishop Hawkeye. This is presumably Speed.
I cannot tell who this actor is supposed to be.
I'm pretty sure that's Speed.
He looks so much younger than Joe Locke, though. He looks like 6 years old.
And then we have Ms. Marvel.
But we're missing America Chavez and Patriot.
And then we have Dupe, who apparently I saw this, your TikTok comments were very upset that you...
I don't care about Dupe.
I know, but it was quite funny that they were like, what about Dupe? And you're like, I mentioned Doom.
I did not know. I will say this out loud. I said this the other day. I'm not a huge Young Avengers person if they're not, unless like outside of Wanda.
Yeah.
But like, I did not know who Dupe was.
So it might be like a version of... Do you think this is a version of Children's Crusade?
I think they're combining Battle World and Children's Crusade kind of together into one story. See how much older Speed looks in this concept art? They obviously had not settled on a Speed cast. But America Chavez is so clearly missing, as is Patriot, from this lineup. Also, obviously, we're not getting Viv Vision and Vision Quest by the looks of things, because she's not... Obviously, she's actually a Champions member, but I was wondering if they were going to shoehorn her into the Young Avengers. But it doesn't look like it from this specific... I don't know if that means that America Chavez has been taken prisoner again, because you've got Wong here, who you would assume would have America with him. I wonder if she's going to be involved. And then you've got... We don't know if this shot is from Vision Quest, or of Vision and Star-Lord together, if that's from Vision Quest or Doomsday. I saw people speculating both. I don't know why Star-Lord... That's Bucky in the jail.
Yeah, okay.
You do have him.
I do have him. Okay.
And then there's the Planet Hulk stuff. Literally, this movie seems like it has everything except Scarlet Witch. Glad to see She-Hulk back. I know some people won't be.
I am.
I know you are, but
and then
you're
right
not
at the
a
end we've
raging
got,
misogynist.
and then no, I'm not. And then right at the end we've got Jocasta.
Yes.
Everybody was like, "Oh, it's female Ultron." I was like, "Okay, it was Jocasta."
I'm wondering if they're going to combine rather than going down the Viv Vision route. Not Viv Vision. Oh, what's his wife called? I've suddenly forgotten his wife's name. Because Viv is his daughter. It begins with V as well.
And there's like various different Black Panther concept art.
It looks like she's going to be...
it's like a more older version of Black Panther, isn't it? Like a...
Yeah, well, yeah, apparently it's going to be another world version of her.
Jocasta, you
mean? No, I was talking about Black Panther.
Oh, him.
Sorry, him.
That's okay.
Virginia is the mom's name. I'm wondering if they're going to go down that route. We did know that they were casting for Viv Vision. Again, this might just not be the whole Young Avengers assembled. Like, people are very concerned that we only have 5 members here, but I'm Dupe. Fucking Dupe. But I think that maybe the whole Young Avengers just aren't here. Also, we don't know... The thing about this concept art is we don't know when it was made. We don't know if they're still along these lines.
2022 to 2024.
Yes. Well, yeah. But we don't know if things have changed since then.
Yeah.
None of it will be final. And concept art they can commission a bunch of different people to do concept art and then use none of it.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the best thing that it gives us is tonally where they're going with the movie, characters that they imagine they're going to include, dynamics that I think that we must be prepared for Star-Lord to be Wanda's honorary brother. I almost think they're using him to replace Quicksilver, because that's the kind of... Him and Quicksilver do not have dissimilar
traits.
I think that they are basically shoehorning Peter Quill now that he's lost his Guardians gang. I hope we're not going to see him as an honorary member of the Maximoffs, but I do worry that's where we're going with this. But I'm excited. I love how the concept art looks. I do think that we're moving towards some sort of amalgamation of Children's Crusade / obviously we know the Battle World concept and Secret Wars are coming in, but I do think that we are leading down that route, and I do love the concept art. I think it looks really good, and I'm excited for that. I'm so excited for like a medieval theme rather than like a black, like a blank white, like void type situation. I think that's much more exciting visually to look at, and more likely for them to build practical sets than if they'd gone with a more futuristic... I'm done looking at futuristic stuff. I'd rather look at old stuff. What do you think?
I don't know. For me, like, the jury's still out on the whole, like, RDJ Doom thing. That's kind of like my biggest gripe with this, and also the fact they're bringing the Russo brothers back. I mean, they have other talented directors to work from in the Marvel stable, and they're just bringing back the Russo brothers, who's probably their only movie since Endgame was The Grey Man, which I don't think anybody. So I don't think that movie exists.
Me and Rhiannon watched a documentary the other day that was directed by the Russos.
Oh yeah, was it post Endgame?
I think so, because I think I think it's 2022, so it would have been, yeah.
I said my kind of thing with the Russos is I think they're very. They did a good job with this Marvel House style, but the problem is like you've got other like.
I would love to see
directors.
Matt Shakman.
Matt Shakman, that was kind of my. I mean, but then he's Fantastic Four, and so
I'm praying he's signed up for the Scarlet Witch solo movie. I would love for him to do that. I think that the slate right now needs a female-led project, and I think that
because the slate at the moment is what Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Doomsday,
Vision Quest, Wonder Man, Season 2 of Daredevil,
Season 2 of Born Again,
and
Secret Wars, and Spider-Man 4.
Basically.
Which apparently I heard a rumour today that Spider-Man 4 is going to be a direct sequel to Secret Wars, and I'm like, please don't. I want my street-level Spider-Man, please.
Well, I just want him to show up in Season 2 of Daredevil.
Yeah, please. I want Matt Murdock and Peter Parker.
Neither of us have seen the first 2 episodes of Born Again yet, so we can't comment on it, but like, I saw people hating on my queen Karen Page, and I never want to hear any Karen Page hate ever again. But going back to shipping, I was intolerable when these shows were airing because I was the OG Frank and Karen shipper, and I will continue with that. It is one of the most complicated relationships on that show, and I'm saying it now. Frank would never let anything happen to Karen Page, so if she dies in this show, that is entirely on Matt. Anyway, Nick is like just zones out whenever I like start being a fangirl. So what we actually want to cover today as the main chunk of the episode is Nick has finally read the Wanda's very first solo run, which was her 1994 solo run. This
4 issues.
4 issues. It came about because she was a member of the ForceWorks team. Well, and also she was airing on. This is right before ForceWorks. She was a part of the Iron Man show, the cartoon, and they were hoping to launch her. She's wearing the same costume with the same terrible haircut, kind of, that she had in that show. And this was them trying to launch her as a major character.
So the writers I've got Andy Lanning, Dan Abnett, penciler is John Higgins, inker is Mark McKenna, letterer Jim Novak's, color is Kevin Summers, editor Nell Yomtov, and editor-in-chief at the time of Marvel was Tom DeFalco. Now, Before we go into the 90s Scarlet Witch run, I despise the 90s era of Marvel because this is the era of the Clone Saga. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you know exactly what that means. Where basically Marvel was going bankrupt. Like they were literally going bankrupt. That's why at one time like they sold or like loaned out the Marvel Avenger characters to was it Todd McFarlane, I think? I can't remember. Anyway, this is like mid-90s, and like Marvel nearly went bankrupt. So much so they had to sell their movie rights off to various different companies, which is how we ended up in the mess that we ended up in until Fox was bought by Disney. And that's how the mess we've got with Sony owning Spider-Man and presumably wanting to keep making Madam Web movies. So the 90s era is basically Marvel just being very like stuck for ideas, very like we need to do the weirdest shit. We need to like try everything. They have to try everything to try and captivate readers. I actually really
like this comic, and
I wasn't. I hadn't finished. I hadn't finished. Okay. So I really dislike the 90s era Marvel, just as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't really like 90s era comics anyway. I think really only Spawn kind of comes out of that era looking any like particularly kind of decent when you kind of like go back and read. The independent stuff, basically. With that in mind, this 4 issues, I thought it was all right. I don't like her haircut.
No.
It's very 90s, 1990s. Well, it's actually very 80s, to be honest.
It's crazy because during the 90s, Wanda goes through the most character redesigns she goes through in the shortest amount of time. Because I was wrong. She's still part of the West Coast Avengers here. She's about to head off into the Force Works team because they feature in this comic. I think of this as her Force Works outfit. She was about to go from this weird, like, pixie cut, and then she has the longest hair known to humankind right after this. And literally, they could not decide on her. Well, that's the thing. The 90s, they kept reinventing the Avengers. It's why they closed down the West Coast Avengers after this. And, like, they... Wanda and Vision had this huge fallout. I love this era because Wanda was very much romantically involved with Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, and
speaking of shipping,
and Agatha is such a big force in this comic. And we are introduced to, like, a lot of people know this, one of Wanda's best rogue villains in her rogue gallery, which is Lore, the evil version of Wanda.
This is her first appearance.
Mm-hmm. This is where she comes up.
I was wondering about that.
So, basically, this is very much a comic about magic. They were very much focused on that, and that is how they wanted to define Wanda as being different from maybe especially the X-Men. This is the beginning of Wanda shifting away from mutant kind of behavior and very much into witchcraft, because that had already been established over in like Swamp Thing with women like Jennifer Kale, to reference an Agatha character. So basically we enter this comic and Wanda's been having like malevolent dreams. This is a current common occurrence for Wanda kind of across the comics. She was always having dreams of something that was going to happen. They're always kind of hinting at prophecy without actually going into it. And so she's really worried that she sees this malevolent entity with her face. Clue, this is where Lore comes in. Wreaking havoc like all over the place. And she's really worried that it's her going mad and evil again. So she rings up Agatha and she's like, hey girl, I'm really worried I'm going to kill everybody. And Agatha's like, no. I think this could be related to your nature as a Nexus being. And I think that maybe you're seeing something else. And she's like, I'm going to investigate that for you. And
so she also says it's like, it might have something to do with the fact that all the trauma you've suffered from Immortus, your father Magneto. What did she say? You and your brother Pietro have suffered much as pawns of others. Immortus and your father Magneto have toyed with your memories, your past, and your being in cruel, subtle ways. And the emotional scars amassed of pandemonium left upon you are deep and slow to heal. My dear, you have been manipulated by evil so often in your life. It is little wonder now you fear for your sanity and mistrust the strength of your own mind. But listen to me, Wanda. You are strong. You must reject all feelings of self-doubt. You must have faith in your own soundness of mind. I am sure your troubled dreams are something to do with your nature as a Nexus being. We know so little of what that means. I am still investigating this on your behalf. That's what Agatha kind of does, a little bit of exposition at this point.
Reading that, do you see why it pisses me off so much? This is the direction we're heading in the 90s, that like literally 10 years later, they're like, no, you're too fragile. Your weakness as a woman has jumped out, and now you're going to disassemble the Avengers and also end mutant kind. Do you see why that might annoy me a little bit more having read this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Why are you pointing at me? Is this the first mention of Wanda being a Nexus being?
No, we pre-established that.
Okay.
So the next day we rock up and Wanda is with her the West Coast Avengers teammates, actually with US agent, so that is John Walker.
I wondered why he was such a dick.
Yeah. And when a host of demons attack their compound, the demons are looking for Wanda, and they have an apparent connection to the presence in her dreams. Wanda recognizes their weakness to iron, which feels like so specific. So she uses War Machine's armor to turn the tide of this battle that they're fighting and like get rid of the demons. But she's like even more paranoid now that like this is her fault in some way. So she rocks off to go see Agatha, who says like, I found like a lead. Let's go to an abandoned town called Unity. So Wanda goes off to meet Agatha there, and they go into a mysterious church basement because, you know, that's where you should, looking for runes. But they split up. They never learn from the Scooby Gang. And Wanda runs into another occupant of the library, declaring he's been waiting for her, and he reveals himself to be the much more, like, demonic, revived Pandemonium.
So the trip down into Unity is giving off very New England Stephen King, Cthulhu, Lovecraft vibes.
I love her coat.
It's a pretty damn good coat. Like the whole like church kind of giving off secrets. Do they ever go back to Unity?
I feel like this is very much referenced in the 2015, especially the coat. This like big fur coat becomes a bit of a motif for Wanda. I think they do go back to Unity. I'm pretty sure
it's a pretty good location in terms of like what happens here. You know, the issues to come. Like it's a pretty damn
sure
good
it's
location.
In the 2015 run.
It's a pretty good damn good location. Agatha gives us some really cool hints at really interesting backstory.
Agatha was like, see, in the 90s, and they see this got referenced. It didn't get referenced in the Iron Man cartoon because it was very much focused on Wanda being a bitch, but it does get referenced in Avengers United They Stand, which we'll talk about at some point. They were really working on this relationship between Agatha and Wanda. It's a shame kind of what the MCU did, because there's been a bunch of really interesting times, because it also happened in, what's it called? The X-Men cartoon where they're all young. Evolution. They also work on the Agatha-Wanda relationship, and it's become a really key part of her like mythos of that time, the early 2000s. And
so this is pre-disassembled.
And then obviously they killed Agatha off, and Wanda's evil. Yeah. So
Master Pandemonium. So he was dead at this point. Yeah. So this is like the bit of a surprise that he's back from the dead.
So,
and obviously looking very, very different.
Yeah, and he claims to be obsessively in love with Wanda, but attacks her with a bunch of demons to like lay claim to her. Wanda fights him off, because of course she does, and she goes through like a hidden passageway in the library. It's all a bit like Lovecraftian. This would make a really cool film. This arc would be so cool to see on TV. I'd really love to see what Jack Schaefer could do with this.
Meanwhile, while she's kind of fighting off, we get little one-page inserts of a mysterious figure going to the Avengers West Coast compound. First off, doing something to Living Lightning, who is a member I've never heard of before.
I can't remember him.
Clearly a 90s thing. And then she she does something to Spider-Woman, and then we see her do something to US Agent, and then we see her do something to War Machine, and then that's it.
Yeah.
This mysterious figure, we don't know.
Yeah, she's bumping them off kind of one by one. Very slasher movie, very fun.
Yeah, the Spider-Woman one is literally Psycho.
Yeah, it's Psycho. And then the Wanda goes into this like little underground passageway and finds an occult shrine littered with like otherworldly kind of like bits and bobs, I guess. And then right in the middle, she finds the book that her and Agatha came to find, and reading it, she's suddenly filled with the knowledge of her own nature as a Nexus being, and learns about kind of what the nature of Nexus beings is in general, and how there are other beings like her in other dimensions that each represent a unique brand of magic, which is such a fun idea.
This is brought up later on, sure. Yeah. Because this is now like an important.
Yeah, this is a super important piece of lore that was dropped in this 4-episode issue run that is not referenced as much as her runs with Vision, which contain very little lore. This was a really lore heavy. They were really trying to establish, I think, the success of things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Maybe.
94?
Was it before? No.
Buffy was later.
Yeah, I mean, they're ahead of their time, really.
Yeah, I mean, Charmed was way behind.
Yeah, I can't think of what would have. I was thinking of Sabrina, but I just think of that as old because
Sabrina was like late 90s.
I don't know what they're building off really.
There was a Buffy movie, but that was in the early 90s.
This is very cult. This is really good. This like lays a lot of foundation for.
You know what we should do? Maybe we should put a call, like try and find these writers.
I would love to speak to these writers. And then they have their own unique brand of magic. In her case, hex power. These Nexus beings can't exist in the same dimension of each other, but she becomes aware that one of these beings is not content to obey the rules, an evil Nexus being called
Laura.
Yeah. So Wanda finds her way back to the surface while this mysterious figure has been bumping a hole her teammates, only to find the town warped into an impossible nightmare version of itself, and is inhabited by the ghosts of her own memories, which is such a slay concept. There, she's quickly attacked by Pandemonium alongside the monstrous possessed forms of
Julia Carpenter, Spider-Woman, War Machine, US Agent, and Living Nightmare. The Living Lightning. So these demonic forms of these heroes. The US Agent is referenced as like a goblin. The Living Lightning is kind of like this kind of fiery being that's a bit more kind of sinister looking, a bit more like what do you call it, like elf goblin like looking. And then you've got War Machine, who is like literally Warhammer 40k. The one that really kind of I don't like looking at is Julia Carpenter.
Yeah, it's really scary. And the cover of issue 3 that she's on literally scares the living heck out of me.
In terms of like horror imagery, like this, it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. I would love to see like John Higgins, who did the art, like other than hating Wanda's character design, which like isn't really his fault, I absolutely love the kind of the very vibrant. Obviously, it's very of its time. I would love to see a redraw by like Russell.
Yeah.
But I would love to see this animated. I think this would make an incredible backdrop for an animated series. So basically, all of her evil Avenger teammates have shown up in issue 3, and the Scarlet Witch is kind of fighting against them, and they eventually manage to capture her because there's a lot of them and only one of her, and bring her back to the catacombs beneath the church. Literally, she's like on a cult table. With her captive, Pandemonium recounts his banishment to Mephisto's realms as their last encounter. He's like, hey, you literally sent me to Mephisto's realm. Like, that's not very nice. And he talks about his ensuing torture and transformations at the demons he once controlled. He says he was sustained by his love for Wanda. He found himself freed to return to the earth to stalk her anew. He's about to lash out at her for rejecting him when Agatha shows up.
So the Agatha bit was quite interesting, I thought, because when she goes to the Avengers West compound in California, she finds War Machine's helmet, and then she's like alive with psychometric traces, and then she does her thing, and then it says Agatha Harkness spins magic about the compound's lobby, focusing on the headgear of the hero War Machine, armor he would choose to never be without. The room stinks of sorcery. Barely has the name been uttered, and in an urgent lance of eldritch flame, Agatha is gone. The eldritch flame bit is the bit that is very Lovecraftian.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of before that, I wanted to bring this up. So this is kind of like really hammering home, I think, their aims in this series, which is it does lead on to where your kind of gripes later on, 10 years later after this kind of lead on to, where I'm just going to read this opening
thing.
Go for it. On the impossible edge of nowhere, teetering on the brink between madness and reality, friendless and alone, Wonder Woman feels her body sing with the power and rage that flows through it and turns to fight. Her name is Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, mistress of probability-altering hex power, Nexus being Avenger.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like, it's a very like impact. It's like a 3-panel kind of. It's a 3-panel thing, and it's like Stan Lee presents Scarlet Witch, and it's a very like empowering kind of page. And I can I'm not going to take back what I said, when we spoke about the House and Empty Assemble things, because I legitimately like those. I like those comics, but I can understand the almost 180 whiplash of like, we've got Scarlet Witch. She is, this powerful being who's so strong, and so she is the singular Scarlet Witch to becoming what you literally describe as the damsel in distress. Yeah, and I understand the whiplash that is, because I think that's a very strong issue. That's just a very, very big problem with concurrent writers when it comes to comic book issues, and we are seeing that becoming an issue in the movies as well, and TV shows.
I just think that this is how it felt. This comic feels like setting up Wanda with a very differing identity. And there was a good job when George Perez took over writing her in the Avengers after this. Force Works does a really good job of that as well, because Tony is falling apart and he's like, look, Wanda, I've led a team, it's your go. Like, we'll talk about Force Works in depth, and also the major power that we give Wanda at the end of the 90s. They were really pushing her. Obviously, they made her, like, Avengers United, They Stand kind of shows where they were aiming to lead the Avengers going forward to be a complementary team to the X-Men, because they're very much giving Wanda her own brand that does not rely on being a mutant, but builds on those mutant abilities and builds on her tragic past to be more than that. And then obviously we then got set back like 10 years. And I feel like writers who handle Wanda now, especially in the wider universe, maybe not so much in her solo comic, but I feel like when we come to these big events, there are still writers who like hate her from House of M and are unable to forgive that when they are writing larger arcs. And it just annoys me. So Agatha arrives and sets Wanda free, and together they take on the demon forces, and they manage to incapacitate Pandemonium by making him take Wanda's place. Iconic. And he's like, this is not going my way. The lady promised me. And Wanda and Agatha are like, who? Oopst? As in pulling your strings? And just as they're having this conversation, they're greeted by this like kind of spectral figure that had managed to conquer the West Coast Avengers, and the evil entity from Wanda's nightmares, the rogue Nexus being, who introduces herself as
Laura.
Yes.
So the horror imagery really comes into fore in here, because we see Law, or who we now know as Law, knocking off the West Coast Avengers one by one. We don't see her knocking off Wonder Man. Mm-mm. So that makes the reveal when we see Simon, we're like, oh crap, Simon is going to actually help her out, and we're actually kind of like pleased to see him. And then we this kind of horrifying page
so horrible,
where he literally just decomposes into a zombie in front of her.
Yeah.
And it's like honestly legitimately terrifying.
I remember picking up this comic like from my floor one night because I was looking for a specific panel. This happens to me all the time. This is before I had the Unlimited app.
Yeah.
And I like opened it to that page and I was like, not for tonight.
Not tonight.
I was like, not tonight, actually. It's really horrifying. This comic leans into horror.
It does. You get the recurring imagery of Mr. Pandemonium with the children on his hands, which is a disturbing image of itself. But that's not even like, that's a disturbing image. But then you just get the...
Yeah, her really... being like tied up is like, it gives me a lot of like, again, like Swamp Thing, and Jennifer Kale had been having this imagery for a long time. Wanda was very much chewing on Jennifer's nachos here, but in a really good way. It took her into this kind of like very different tone from an Avengers issue.
It was like, so that was my worry when picking up this 90s issue, that we would just kind of get the overblown muscles and like the complicated story that doesn't really go anywhere, with like basically all the problems you get with my issues with Spider-Man comics of the 90s. And it isn't that. It's something that's really focused, and like it's really got a sense of what it actually is wanting to do. It's not just showing off a female heroine who's, you know, just showing off her body and that's kind of it. No, and
even though she's in a more revealing outfit than she had previously, it actually doesn't, other than having like a push-up bra somehow in this outfit, she really isn't over, especially with the short haircut, which I do hate for her because it doesn't feel very Wanda. But I do think, I mean, Laura's much more sexualized in her like weird like jumpsuit moment that she's having. But I love it. I really love the imagery in this comic. I think this would be, I do think I'm a little bit shallow. I think this could be one of my favorite runs if I didn't hate the look so much. But the actual imagery is so stunning, and it's such like, it's only 4 issues, but it does everything that it needs to do within those 4 issues. It covers the horror elements. It's very different from, especially on the West Coast Avengers, they've been kind of rotting on the outside for a little bit, and it has become down to a lot of like politics between the Avengers. This refocuses on Wanda's powers and what she brings to the table, and I think really set her up for, obviously in the late 90s, she rejoined the Avengers team. She becomes a complete, like, steadfast force within the main Avengers again. She gets to appear twice in animated series. You know, they really said she's an Avenger and like here she is, and it's a shame, I think, that then everything that happened. But in this last issue, Laura's like, hey, my name is Lore. What's up? And she's like, I'm a Nexus.
Exactly like that.
She's like, hey guys, how are you?
Yeah.
My thing is necromancy, and they're like, chill, girl.
She's a a guest character on an episode of Friends.
Yeah, she's like, the audience cheers.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah,
And she,
the
like,
applause.
Yeah, she
the laugh
comes in.
track comes on.
Not that, yeah, because
The
then
Seinfeld bass line starts
she's
playing.
like- and then really lightheartedly, she's like, hey, I consumed my own world eons ago. And she's since been going kind of from universe to universe, trying to usurp other Nexus beings and eat their universes too. Each time she succeeds, the event physically ripples to neighboring dimensions, allowing her to make contact with other Nexus beings, which explains Wanda's nightmares, which is such a good concept.
Yeah.
It very much leads to the multiverse of madness, like you dream your other variants, but kind of better. And because other Nexuses can't coexist in the same dimension, Lore only appears in Wanda's as an intangible spirit, but there are plenty of dark powers at her command, which means she's still a threat. So Wanda's only hope is to use her unique hex power, which alters probability so that Lore can't get a physical form in their reality.
But what we do get is this really cool image of Lore being attacked by the dead beings attacking her in this like double page spread.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a legit. I mean, yeah, we talk about like terrifying images and stuff, but I'm just loving the detail of this. Like it is 90s in its color, but like I'm just loving the ambition that this is cut. This
I just think that we should have given more space to this in general.
6 issues, maybe.
So yeah, I would love a 6 issues would have been great. We also kind of got a tease for this. There's like there was a weird, obviously in the 90s they were experimenting with like how to make comics look more attractive, and so there's like a double-sided comic that one half is Ghost Rider and one half is Wanda, and it's like a metallic cover where they kind of hint at this kind of artwork as well.
Do you have that?
I do, yeah. Of course I have that.
You need to show it off on TikTok, I think.
I will.
Especially in conjunction with this episode.
Yes. Anyway.
Look out for that TikTok, guys.
Yeah, Wanda supplements her magic with martial arts skills that she learned from
US
Agent earlier on in the run to give her the edge. She's like, I can kick butt too, not just do magic. And so she managed to put Lore on the defensive. Pandemonium breaks free and makes one last attempt to grab Wanda and claim the prize of love that Lore promised him, but lets her go at the last moment when he sees that Lore is like about to betray him and kill them both. As Lore blasts Pandemonium away, Wanda like runs to the Avengers and she frees them from the monstrous forms that Lore twisted them into. Even though it seems that like Lore, it's not going well for her, she remains confident as she is merely like holding back so that she can stab Wanda's reality to death, essentially. But in her like utter confidence in herself, she calls upon the spirits of other nexuses that she had previously conquered, talking about this panel where they're like, no, we don't want to be your friend, and they help.
It goes full on last moment of Raiders of the Lost Ark, doesn't it? Like that's what that's giving.
It also gives a little bit when the ghosts attack Voldemort in Harry Potter. But,
that too. I'm referencing a better franchise.
Yes. Wanda manages to deliver the final blow. She has a sword, which is cool.
Yeah, where did the sword show up?
It's giving Excalibur.
Is this from Master Pandemonium? Did he have this and drop it?
Lore tried to kill her with it earlier, didn't she?
Did she?
I think so.
I'm gonna hunt this.
You
carry on.
She pierces Lore's the vulnerable heart. The cosmic threat is ended, and the other spirits of the Nexus are free. Thank you, Wanda. Later, as she recovers back home with her team, Wanda like reflects on how good she feels after having had this big cosmic battle, and she feels like she's been born anew. She's a better Scarlet Witch, which then leads on to her confidence. Well, how annoyed she is when they break up the West Coast Avengers, and then going into leading the Force Works team. They establish Wanda as a major player, as a threat. This was really important. And also, this, if you know from the 2024-2025 run, Lore then goes on to be in the dead realm. She's...
Spoilers.
Sorry.
The sword comes from one of the dead beings that gets risen up.
Oh,
There's like they're all
I had
Jason and the Argonaut skeletons.
My note was Wanda has big ancient sword, so
yeah, so that
I obviously didn't.
They got this amazing onomatopoeic line.
I literally love. We need to see if you know how to get in contact with Andy Lanning or Dan Abnett.
I mean, even the penciler,
literally John Higgins. We need to get in contact and pray that they. Oh my gosh! Andy Lanning is from Manchester.
Oh, okay. Might actually be attainable for us to contact.
Well, we'll look into that. So I do recommend reading this run. It's a really great little look into the Scarlet Witch. Very easy to digest. It is quite a horror-looking comic. There's no blood or guts, so you won't vomit. No. But it's more creepy than it is anything.
The last page, I wanted because this made me laugh. So Wanda wakes up and she's just like, all that training, kept me going, combat training. And US agent's like, flattery won't make me ease off the workout regime, Wanda. And then Jessica Carpenter's like, shut up, agent.
Yeah, but literally everyone to John Walker ever. You know what's funny is they love to reference Wanda having martial arts training in Avengers media. There's this book I have. It's an Avengers fiction book, and there's this whole bit where Wanda's like, it doesn't matter that I'm one of the most powerful magical beings ever. What really matters is that Captain America gave me hand-to-hand combat skills.
It is. I do like that the last frame, the last panel is the end of the old of the old Scarlet Witch.
Agatha's bob is very good.
It's pretty good.
That is a bob.
Yeah, got the cape and everything.
And Simon's just like, hey girl,
sleeveless.
Yep. They were really going for it with Simon there. So that sums up that run. It's so good. Please look into it. I think Nick actually enjoyed it a lot more than he thought he was going to.
I did.
And so we will be carrying on Wanda's story. Probably I'm gonna give Nick a reading list for Wanda and Simon, but he is going away this weekend, so it might be something a bit lighter next week. Thank you.
One shot or something, maybe.
One shot. Keep it cool, keep it slim. Maybe I'll give you the Ghost Rider. It's so short, that panel. We'll have to see how much news we have. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in with us. We have lots of more interviews coming up. So if there's someone you'd like us to interview, tag them, let us know. We would love to hear from you. We love feedback in all ways. Message us on our social medias, email us. There's a text us function if you're listening on Buzzsprout. If you can't wait to hear more from me, I am Hannabeth Gardener. You can find me over at Into the Wandaverse over on TikTok, the Wandaverse on Instagram, same on Threads, same on the Bird app.
Mine's the Film Nick on Letterboxd, my website supertomavision.com, at Nick S. Chandler on Blue Sky. That's it, I think.
Thank you so much to the wonderful, wonderful Lily, who drew our album artwork. Thank you to the Melody Ray Griffiths for the music, and until we see you next time, stay magical.
Shut up, US agent.
Shut up! Shut up! Always!